Begin recording. To my sister Jennifer, I've twisted my surroundings and been deluding myself for far too long that I believe I can never truly settle back down into reality. Even if I manage to turn everything planted in these walls off, made to deceive myself, I fear the damage is already done and far too great. I have my child with me, or who I thought I could eventually bring myself to believe was my child, but alas, she brings me no joy. I have poured nothing but agony into my creations and projects. Those robots, these puppets, marionettes and mockeries that only serve not as reminders of what I once had, but of the unbearable pain of what was taken from me. Keep all the closets shut, especially that last closet. Barricade it and bury it if you have to. My grief was already shaking me to reality when I began the final stage of my project. I had no choice but to cease my work, for it was only fueling my own delusion. My old business partner, who I can only hope is keeping the devil company in the deepest circle of hell, took what I had begun and made it his own dreadful circus of torture. I was able to stop him and seal away what he made. Jennifer, you must now ensure that seal remains. If all went according to plan, you followed my words accordingly. Someday, decades later, when nobody remembers any of this, fill the house with everything and anything flammable before burning it to the ground. Put a bullet into anything that emerges from the ashes, no matter who or what it looks like, and make sure it completely stops functioning. I'm going to be with my child soon, my real child who I should have known I could never replace. I entrust that I can leave everything up to you. End recording.
Five Nights at Freddy's The Silver Eyes is a fantastic book that spawned a trilogy of novels expanding upon an alternate take on the mythology. In this trilogy, we witness a world where Charlotte Emily supposedly never got murdered by William Afton and got the chance to fully grow up. While the sequel, The Twisted Ones, wasn't as good as The Silver Eyes in my opinion, to me it was passable and had some really good moments with some characters even showing growth. The fourth closet felt like it could have benefited from being split into two books, with everything it tried to cram in and push as the finale, while that and the reveal about Charlie near the end almost completely annihilated any reason we had to care about the main character. If it sounds like I'm being harsh on the two sequel books, it's just because I can see the full potential the entire trilogy could have had. If the three books could have been split into four, we really could have had something special. The comic adaptations did not do the book trilogy any favors either, unnecessarily changing characters' appearances and lessening the impact of or completely upending scenes. People like me who have only read the comic adaptations were mighty confused about some parts of the books until those who have read the written novels explained to us what the comics changed. This got me thinking, what if there was an adaptation that could not only accurately depict the novels but change them for the better based on certain choices you made? The answer to that question would take the form of an episodic choice-based narrative-driven video game. Not only would characters and scenes be accurately depicted, but scrapped concepts could be included to give those who read the books a new experience that they felt a little adventurous. Before I continue, let's have some fun in the comment section. The first thing I'd like all of you watching to tell me after this video is over is how you would play your copy of the Silver Eyes Trilogy. What kind of character do you think Charlie would become based on your choices, and what kind of ending would you get or try to achieve? The second is a little game. You just ask Charlie on a date, or John if you're into guys, and either of them accept it. Describe the most romantic date of what public place you would go and what both of you would do when you get there. The first person to respond has to ruin the date and find a way to pull Charlie or John from it. It can involve an animatronic, any animatronic. Let's not worry about continuity here. Have fun with this. It fascinates me how the more you reread the trilogy and certain parts of them, the more you start to really understand what's going on with them. Imagine a choice-based game jam-packed with as many accuracies, Easter eggs, and self-references as possible that changes the experience with each choice you make. Not only could players understand the true meaning in the original parts of the story, but bring new meaning depending on how much they've changed. They could even experience new scenes not included in the original works and completely change the story. To a certain degree, of course. A Silver Eyes Trilogy game would be a big hit with both content creators recording themselves playing this and casuals just looking to experience an interactive fiction on their own. And the best part, due to this game being aimed at an older audience, probably still aimed for a teen rating, but you know, almost nothing would have to be censored from the original stories. It annoyed me just how much the Silver Eyes Trilogy comics changed since Censor Stranger Things. The main story was still intact, but I would be lying if I said I didn't notice how prude the women were dressed in these comics. It's pretty damn sad that I was surprised I got to see some of Charlie's bra on her shoulder in the Twisted Ones comic. Actually, the Twisted Ones art was way more risky with what it showed, if you want to call what the Twisted Ones showed even quote-unquote risky. This was because our duties went from Pinky Pills over to Claudia Aguirre. I prefer Claudia's depiction of the characters and settings over Pinky Pills, most likely because Claudia probably took the notice Scott Cawthon handed her about needing to censor things, crumpled it up, and then scored a basket with it into the trash. It's really, really sad that I have to say the Twisted Ones was the least censored comic in the entire trilogy. Now, I don't want you thinking that I'm some lonely, desperate degenerate who needs some TNA to keep me invested in a story. The censorship I'm talking about in these comics also covers the violence as well. Those who've read the actual books told me things got pretty dark with the violence involved and how they were described. However, in the comics, yes, even the Twisted Ones, it looked like you could walk off everything that the characters went through. Afton at the end of the Silver Eyes looked like Charlie just pushed the hidden strawberry jam button hidden in his suit and had to gush all over the place. I imagine Charlie being stuck in the Springlock suit was way more claustrophobic and harrowing in the novel than what the comic depicted, where it looks like she had tons of wiggle room and would only get minor scratches if she failed. And then there's the scene where baby Elizabeth whatever rips Ella out of Charlie, and I believe she could just walk away from that one because apparently Charlie had a hidden stash of Smucker's jam hidden under her shirt where Ella was. Things shouldn't get too graphic in the trilogy game, but the stakes should, feel like actual stakes. When Charlie gets put into the Springlock suit, the weight of what will happen to her should you fail needs to be felt. If Charlie gets Ella ripped out of her, that scene should be as grotesque as the teen rating should allow. Have multiple broken wires, hoses, and tubes dangling out of Charlie's body, filling out all sorts of different colored fluids all over her. She should be crawling across the floor, desperately gasping for air as she's struggling to get back on her feet, let alone walk or run, to really build up the situation's tension. Make the stakes actually get players invested in wanting to protect the characters and the weight of failing to save any of them weigh on their conscience. Back to how the characters are dressed, showing some cleavage is just part of some women's outfits. I was more focused on Circus Baby's chest when she disguised herself as Charlie because of how hiked up it looked to cover her bobbins. I kept thinking about how ridiculous it was because Baby was trying to use Charlie's best looking body to seduce all her guy friends and turn away her girlfriends. She's the villain. She's supposed to use the power of cleavage to her advantage. Hell, my eyes probably wouldn't have been drawn to fake Charlie's chest so much if it didn't look so awkward and she just had some cleavage there. Speaking of Circus Baby, and this is a change I actually agree with, but it's not book accurate, so I gotta talk about it anyways. Apparently, the way she looked in the comic was censored too. She changed from the games looking like a giant toddler to in the fourth closet looking like she was designed by someone with a serious clown fetish. Am I the only weirdo who thinks Circus Baby shouldn't be attractive? Is there something wrong with me for thinking that? Because if there is, then I want to stay broken. However, as much as I would like the comic accurate Baby to be in the game because, I actually like the design that doesn't show robo-jubblies or a thong and thinks it's a perfect mix of appealing but deadly, skimpy beach-ready Baby would have to be the one to show up in the Silver Eyes Trilogy. And there was much rejoicing. Yay! As much as the game developers can help it, there should be as little censored from the books as possible. What should be just as important as not censoring things is keeping characters and events as book accurate as possible too. In order for a Silver Eyes Trilogy game to work, it must have the character settings and events, should you want to follow them to a T in your playthrough, be as accurate as possible. The comics changed a lot of things, and I could make a whole separate video just listing off all the changes from book to comic. I'll just focus on the ones most important to me that shouldn't carry over into the games. Jessica is one of my favorite characters in the trilogy, probably because she was one of the only memorable characters that actually did stuff before the finale of the Fourth Closet. I hate admitting Jessica is one of the characters I like because I don't want people to think I'm into blondes or kinda ditzy girls. While I was pleased to find out that in the written novels, Jess is a brunette, just like Charlie. Actually, the books go out of their way to make you believe that her and Charlie could be twin sisters appearance-wise. This causes a lot of scenes that were confusing in the comic to make way more sense when you think about how Jessica is supposed supposed to have brown hair. A really good example is when in The Twisted Ones, Officer Burke and Charlie observe a dead woman they found, and Clay tells Charlie that she's not a rare type, which causes her to look and feel devastated. Now, if Jessica looked similar to Charlie in the comics, this scene would have had way more of an impact because without saying it, we could imagine that Charlie is thinking about not wanting the twisted animatronics to go after her best friend. There are many other scenes that either would have hit harder or made more sense if Jess stayed a brunette. I hate when people in charge of adaptations change characters because they think the audience is dumb and wouldn't be able to tell characters apart. Having a brown-haired Jessica would not only be more accurate to the source material, but allow players to make some interesting choices depending on how they played the game. Now, the next bit you'll have to take with a grain of salt because since I didn't read the Fourth Closet novel, I'm only going off of what people who've read it told me. So I'm sorry if I'm wrong about this. Apparently, Circus Baby was way more proactive with trying to seduce other characters and didn't stick to one outfit. Her outfits were allegedly more mature than the red summer dress she wore all the time in the comic adaptation to try and look more grown up. Allowing Baby One disguised as Charlie to have a different outfit on in each scene she appears would make the character way more interesting and show she has a childish view of what being a grown-up is like. Also, kind of disturbing tidbit, it was heavily implied the body Baby used was for when Charlie became a mom, meaning certain parts were more, let's say, developed. Yeah, I can kind of see why the little detail of Circus Baby using a mommy body to seduce everyone around her was kind of left out of the comic. Ugh. Outside of those two things, the only real problem people who read the books had with the comic adaptations was the pacing of each graphic novel. Well, with a game that would get episodic releases across at least 3 seasons and tens of hours if not days of playtime, pacing really wouldn't be an issue. Hell, the game would definitely provide more content than the books it was based on. Those watching this who have read both the novels and comics can definitely provide more examples of what the comics unnecessarily changed that could be fixed in the game. Let's just get this out of the way. We all know who we'd want to voice Charlie in an official Silver Eyes Trilogy video game adaptation. We all know there wouldn't be anyone better, but in the unlikely event that she wouldn't be available, I do have a backup who'd be pretty fitting for the role. Nikki Rapp, who voiced Lily in The Walking Dead Season 1 and 4, would be the perfect choice of Charlie, should the game directors want a more professional actress for the role instead of who we all know would be the perfect choice. Lily even kind of looks like an adult Charlie if she found herself in the middle of an undead apocalypse. To further prove my point, I'm going to match up a couple of Lily's lines with Charlie's pictures.
I said, not now. It's not like you have many other options.
But here, some of you might ask, isn't there another voice actress who's your favorite that you would prefer to voice Charlotte Emily? To that I would say, I have no clue who you're talking about. To which all of you would clap back with, oh, don't play dumb, we all know you'd want your Wolf Mommy's voice actress to be in this game, preferably in the leading role. Now this might surprise you, but while I would indeed want Marta Shevek, sorry if I pronounced your last name wrong Marta, to voice someone in the game, I would not want her to voice Charlie. She just wouldn't fit the role. Not unless you got her to voice adult body Charlie when Circus Baby is disguised as her. That might actually work.
You are nothing!
But this would mean her only showing up later in the game and not getting much else to do. The best role for Marta to take would be Jessica, giving her lots to do and playing a pretty fun character to boot.
I heard that.
We all know who John would be voiced by in this game. I mean, who else would it be? To tell you the truth though, I wouldn't want Kellen Goth to voice him. I have nothing against the guy and think he's an incredible voice actor who must be doing something right to voice over half the male cast in nearly all the Five Nights at Freddy's games. It's just that he wouldn't fit the role of John in my opinion. Kellen's John would either sound like Son, Arnold, or Glam Rock Freddy, or at least to me those are the only options to gauge what a Kellen Goth voiced John would sound like. My money would be more on the Arnold side, and I could get used to it after a while, but it would still kind of rub me the wrong way. The sad thing is, I don't have a specific voice actor that I think would be better for the role. Kellen Goth would make an awesome Carlton, but I highly doubt he would take a smaller role. I mean, he could play both John and Carlton, but in narrative-driven games, you want as many characters as possible to have their own separate voice actors because it's better at creating immersion.
Wait, what? I can barely keep my eyes open. No, I almost died again.
For some reason, I could imagine Dave Fennoy, who voiced Lee in The Walking Dead, voicing Officer Clay Burke. Some might think that casting choice wouldn't make any sense given how Officer Burke is depicted, but think of how badass and intriguing Clay would sound with that voice.
You know your way around? then just go.
I highly doubt this would happen due to it being such a small role depending on what choice players made, but Melissa Hutchinson, who voiced Clementine in The Walking Dead, would knock it out of the park as Marla.
What you doing there, goofball?
The rest of the cast would be filled out by characters who already taken the roles in games, like PJ Haywood as William Afton in Springtrap, Heather Masters as Circus Baby, and Dave Steele as Henry Emily. I wouldn't actually mind a voice acting gig in this game, but I won't kid myself because I know if I did get a role, it would be some unimportant background character or part of a crowd. This might sound like some crossover Walking Dead Five Nights at Freddy's reunion casting, but knowing who's voicing what characters and getting said voices right is extremely important in a story-driven game. Some might even think it's more important than the gameplay and what you can choose to do in the game. The best way to make the Silver Eyes Trilogy gameplay as engaging as possible is to give the player as much freedom to change the outcome as the game will allow. I'm not just talking about dialogue options and choosing how Charlie reacts to events. I mean the player takes control of Charlie over every choice available as soon as it pops up. This would include romance options. That's right, you should be able to choose whose Charlie love interest is. Don't want it to be John? Well, it doesn't have to be. It can be Carlton or even Jessica or Marla. Yeah, if you want Charlie to not even be interested in guys, it'd be totally up to you who she hooks up with. In the later books, new romance options become available, like Artie and Circus Baby? Yeah, if you play your cards right near the end of the game, you can get Baby to actually love Charlie instead of trying to kill her. As you can imagine, this will completely change the outcome of the whole trilogy, but that's what would make this game so fun to experiment with. I'm not trying to change the Silver Eyes Trilogy into a dating simulator. This would be one of the many ways you could personalize your experience with the game. You don't even need to have a love interest. You can shrug off everyone's advances or make everyone hate Charlie, leading to nobody being by her side at the end of the game. Hell, if you really want to, you could make Charlie a complete tease who hits on everybody but never enters a serious relationship. This will of course cause a huge messy situation near the end of the game, but you would have the freedom to give Charlie whatever kind of love life you want. There are certain actions, choices, dialogue options, minigames, and items you can find that would determine how the entire trilogy plays out and what ending you get. If you'd want Charlie to act like a total bitch to everyone, even kinder than Glamrock Freddy, or anywhere in between, what kind of person she is would be completely up to you. No matter how you play as Charlie, all of your actions will have consequences because there would be no right way to play the game. The Silver Eyes Trilogy will encourage you to play the game like as if you were in Charlie's shoes. Even if you have Charlie's best intentions, some characters will still not agree with the actions you take and you won't be able to please everyone. Sometimes you will switch over from Charlie to another character, and these parts of the game will really mess with players, especially if you're trying to get the best outcome for yourself. For the majority of the Fourth Closet, John is the main character. Depending on how you've played the game so far and who you hooked up with, you might not even play as John by the time you reach the beginning of the Fourth Closet. What's funny is that depending on how you've treated everyone up to this point, some characters might not be all that enthusiastic about finding Charlie and might even want to hand her off to Circus Baby. Yeah, you can piss off the other characters so much that they will opt for giving up Charlie's candy ass to the demon robot circus clown. This is before mentioning the kind of endings you can get and how the flashback scenes are affected by the choices you made for Charlie, the other characters you play as, and how you've played the game. The big twist near the end of the trilogy will even change depending on your choices and what you found during the entire game. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the flashbacks, twists, and endings you can achieve, let's solve the big issue some of you might have with Circus Baby being a viable option for romance. This solution will also fix a plot hole with Charlie and make the animatronics more interesting. There's a huge problem with Circus Baby being a romantic option for Charlie. It's the same reason why Charlie is revealed to be an empty shell of a robot without a soul. Baby is possessed by a little girl. To be more precise, William Afton's young daughter Elizabeth. If you've ever wondered why Robot Charlie wasn't possessed by Ghost Charlie, it's because the writer thought it would be weird if John was dating a robot possessed by a murdered child this whole time. So wait, it's an issue of John dates a robot possessed by a ghost child, but the villainess who is possessed by a child she murdered can run around hitting on everyone? Makes perfect sense! Whatever. Believe it or not, there's a solution to fixing this issue, and the person who came up with it gave me permission to use it here. What is that solution? The ghosts continue to age after their living bodies die. And by the way, if you get what I'm referencing, then you're cool. This would mean Circus Baby would be possessed by an adult Elizabeth by the Fourth Closet, and it would make way more sense why she would be using Charlie Charlie's adult body to hit on everybody. Depending on your actions, this could reveal to Charlie that she was the real deal the whole time because her own ghost was possessing her and allowed her to grow up. Freddy and his bandmates would become way more terrifying because instead of creepy children, all of them would be possessed by adults who would know how to whoop some ass. Appeasing them and getting the robots on your side would be more difficult yet creative too. Henry would have a much bigger role in the Silver Eyes Trilogy game, but it wouldn't be in an invasive way. Instead of just showing up at the end of the books and barely anywhere else, there would be flashback sequences involving him and Charlie during her much younger years. These flashbacks would basically serve as evaluations of your progress, judging you for how you played the game disguised as a side story. For example, if you play Charlie as the ambassador of sweetness, sunshine, and rainbows, your flashback would show Henry and Charlie having the time of their lives together. If you play Charlie as some nasty piece of work, well, a different flashback would happen where she is completely uncontrollable and making Henry's life a living hell. These flashbacks would only react to how you respond to other characters and the choices you made outside of what romantic options you chose. Your romantic lifestyle would not be evaluated into what kind of Henry flashback you'd get. These flashbacks would be interactable too, though not as playable as the main game world. Henry will also give you cryptic hints on how to find certain items or unlock certain twists and endings. You'll also be able to find hidden Henry tape recorded messages throughout the game world, which would obviously be a reference to Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. In the books, Henry left written notes, but here they would be audio messages. Again, these messages would be cryptic hints at finding certain twists and endings. The kicker is that when you find certain tape recorded messages or items, you'd be locked into a certain twist or ending, and other tape recorded messages would disappear from the game world for the rest of your journey. Some tape recorded messages would be mandatory to find in order to progress the story, but not a whole lot. No matter how you play the game, Henry will always be dead before the first episode of the Silver Eyes even begins. There is no version of the story you can unlock where you discover an alive and well Henry. The most positive thing that can happen with Henry is your gameplay style unlocking the path that reveals Henry truly loved Charlie before he died. There will also be no path you can unlock that reveals Henry was a decent heroic figure. He was a deeply flawed complex gray character and will remain a deeply flawed complex gray character. To say people weren't too thrilled with the twist at the end of the fourth closet would be one of the biggest understatements of the millennia. I mean, by now some people have gotten used to and even defend the Robot Charlie twist, but that number is still few and far between. I can't believe what I'm about to say, but I'm going to defend this twist by saying it works for a story in a video game. This is especially the case if the game has multiple episodes, seasons, and tens of hours to work with. But why stop there? Why can't a choice-based game adaptation allow you to experience multiple different twists and endings based on the choices you've made? The way the ending to the Silver Eyes Trilogy would work is first you'd get one of the multiple twist reveals, then experience the most appropriate of all of the available endings. I'm going to warn you right now, since I wrote most of the twists and endings, we're delving into the realm of fan fiction, and some of them are going to be real bonkers. Like, Charlie's robot twist ending will look reasonable compared to some of the ones I wrote. I was planning on explaining how you'd get these twists and endings, but I believe it would be better if you use your imagination on how they would be achieved unless specific criteria needs to be met. Also, spoiler warning for like a video game adaptation that only has the slimmest chance of being made. Okay, let's start with the twist reveals. Twist reveal number 1, Charlie is a robot. Default twist reveal. This is the twist reveal that everyone who has read the books or comics knows and loves. Charlie is a robot, was built by Henry after the real Charlie died, isn't possessed by Ghost Charlie yet. There's still a lot you can do with this twist and how it adds to the endings. Twist reveal number 2, Charlie is a robot possessed by her own ghost. In this twist, it's revealed that Charlie was the real deal the whole time and that Henry succeeded in his experiment that brought his daughter back to life. In a way, Charlie now just has a robot body instead of her natural one. However, Baby reveals Henry realized all he did was allow William Afton to murder her again if he found out about Charlie. Eventually, Henry couldn't live with possibly losing Charlie a second time, and instead deleted his own save file after believing he put a stop to Afton's deeds. Aunt Jen took pity on Charlie and raised her in Henry's place. Afton stole the plans just to simply build a better daughter that could outdo Henry's. Twist reveal number 3, John is a Murray and Charlie is a mimic endoskeleton. So this is a twist that would require John to be close to you or at least not have him turned away. In this twist, John reveals that he's been growing up only pretending to be close to Charlie until he was old enough to capture her himself. John explains this is because Charlie is actually a mimic endoskeleton built by Henry based off his uncle Edwin Murray's stolen blueprints. John tries convincing Charlie her real name is EMM3, which stands for Emily Made Mimic 3, or as he calls her, Emmy. Charlie is reasonably upset and keeps arguing that her name isn't EMM3 or Emmy. Baby wonders what all this has to do with her, and John Murray reveals to her that she was supposed to be nothing more than a costume change for EMM3 when she was supposed to become a fully grown adult. John even insults Henry by saying none of his creations were made without any flaws. Both Charlie and Circus Baby are devastated once John reveals the blueprints, and he tries attempting to capture both of them. However, he finds himself hesitating as he starts to realize that he never saw Charlie as another mimic, but as the girl he actually fell in love with. He starts fighting with himself over whether or not he should just let her go or proceed with capturing her. Twist reveal number 4. Charlie is not a robot but the daughter of William Afton. I will always tell everyone this isn't a twist I came up with and originally was made by my buddy. I just took it and expanded upon it. In this twist, Baby reveals that while Sammy and Charlie did play together as very young toddlers, he was never her brother. He was Henry's son, while Charlie is another daughter of William Afton. After Afton murdered Sammy, Henry kidnapped Charlie to replace him so that psychopath couldn't raise her into another monster. However, as Charlie grew up, Henry realized she could never fill the void Sammy left behind. He even started wondering why he should give the daughter of the monster who took his son a better life. His agony, grief, and bitter resentment towards Charlie eventually overcame him, and he deleted his own save file. Aunt Jen took pity on Charlie and believed every child, no matter who they came from, is innocent and should be raised right. Baby reveals that she was built by Afton to recapture, or worst case scenario, replace her. Twist reveal number 5. Charlie is not a robot, but an orphan Henry adopted. In this twist, Circus Baby reveals that Charlie that she is nobody special and not even an Emily. After Sammy was born, Henry wanted more than one child, but found out his wife couldn't produce any more children. He adopted Charlie as a baby and raised both of them to believe they were twin siblings. After William Afton murdered Sammy, Henry was devastated and tried to raise Charlie properly to keep his mind off of his loss. Eventually, he started believing it was unfair that his own flesh and blood was taken from him, and all he was left with was some random girl. His grief and resentment towards Charlie got the better of him, and he deleted his save file, and Aunt Jen took pity on Charlie and raised her in Henry's place. Before anyone asks, I know that Sammy is alive canonically. Some of my twists just kill him off. Now let's see what kind of endings you can get. Ending number 1. Charlie dies or sacrifices herself. The default ending for those who try to stick to the book's ending. Compatible with all twist reveals, here Charlie dies protecting her friends or all alone depending on how she treated everyone. In the epilogue, her love interest or one of her friends stands at her grave mourning before seeing a vision of her under a tree. Standard ending. Ending number 2. Charlie's love interest or one of her friends sacrifice themselves. In this ending, compatible with all twist reveals, Charlie's love interest or closest friend sacrifices themselves for her. Depending on how you treated everyone, they will either pity or scorn Charlie for what happened. In the epilogue, Charlie stands at the grave of whoever sacrificed themselves for her before seeing a vision of their ghost under a tree. Ending number 3. Charlie sides with Circus Baby and takes over Hurricane. In this ending, compatible with all twist reveals, Charlie befriends Baby and turns on everyone. This ending shows all of Charlie's friends are dead, either murdered by her or Baby, and Hurricane becomes the new desolate headquarters for Fazbear Entertainment. Depending on what kind of personality Charlie has by the end of the game, Baby might end up betraying Charlie and murdering her anyways. Ending number 4. Everyone lives and Charlie becomes pregnant. This ending is only compatible with either twists revealed 4 or 5 and only achievable if you have a love interest. In this ending, Charlie either ends up destroying Baby or convincing her to turn good and not harm anyone else. A year or two later, Charlie reveals she's pregnant to everyone before she and her love interest watch a new large building owned by Fazbear Entertainment begin construction. Some might think this is the best ending to achieve, but I would argue it's kind of vague and open to interpretation, especially if that building under construction construction is what you think it is. So what kind of art style would the Silver Eyes Trilogy game have? Well, if Steel Wool did work on it with Skybound Games, I imagine it would have some kind of cel-shaded comic book look to everything. There's also a good possibility that Steel Wool would want to give everything their trademark Pixar Bioshock looking art direction to make it feel more like a playable movie. I think the best move if Skybound and Steel Wool work together would be to have Steel Wool make all the 3D models, then Skybound makes the cel-shaded textures for those models, giving this game a really unique style and world to explore. Before I send everyone off, I want to give a message to the person whom I made this video as a birthday present for. Well, first off, happy birthday. I'm hoping everything was fantastic for your special day, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there personally to celebrate it with you. I know I can be a bit of a handful to deal with at times, and you do worry that I do too much sometimes, even though I think I'm never doing enough for anyone. This video was a homemade birthday present just for you, and some parts were made based solely on what your reaction to them might be. No matter what anyone else thinks of this video, as long as you enjoyed it is all that matters to me. Thanks for being there whenever I needed you, and that's what makes creating this video worth it.